Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Stories for Healing. And you might notice there's a slight difference tonight. There's no one here with me. And that's actually a little bit of selfishness because when I thought of doing this program almost 2 weeks ago now, I thought I'd be doing it for a week and that I'd be telling a story twice a day. Well, that didn't last long because thankfully a lot of other storytellers said, please, could I join? Please, could I tell? And of course I said yes. But it means I don't get to tell very often. So I slip myself into the schedule every now and then because it's good for me too. You know, the whole reason we're doing this program is because we found ourselves in such a divided and fractious and anxious and frightened and oh, this world, there's so much stress. And what do we do as storytellers? But you've heard me say this before. We tell stories. We tell stories of healing. And if you know me, you know that I like to tell stories from a lot of different cultures, but that the ones I love the best are the one from my own, from the Jewish tradition. And so tonight I'm going to take the opportunity to tell you just such a story from the Jewish tradition, a story that takes just a tiny bit of background so that you can fully appreciate it. Now, the first thing you need to know is that there's this big event that happens every year in the Jewish calendar. And there's actually a lot of events that happen in the Jewish year, but one of the biggest is the holy days, the 10 days of awe that start with Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the new year, and end with Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. And there's lots of stories about what happens during those 10 days and what's going on. But especially for the purposes of this story, this is what you need to know. That on the first day, on Rosh Hashanah, the gates of heaven are opened wide. That means our prayers are heard even more than they are any other time of year. Now, some might argue about that, but we'll say for the purposes of this story, that's the day the gates open. And Yom Kippur, that's the day they close. And in those 10 days, you have to do everything you can to make right all the things that you did in the previous year, in the year that's just ended, so that you'll have a good year in this coming year. 10 days of awe, as they're called. And throughout those 10 days, there's a tradition that says that you blow a shofar. You blow it at the very beginning and at the very end. And if you haven't seen a shofar, this is a shofar. It's a small one, but it's a perfectly functional one if applied to perfectly functional lips. And this is a sound, it creates a sound of assembly, of drawing us, our attention, of taking us to the point where we can finally say, yes, hear me, because I'm hearing myself. It's a very, very powerful sound. Now, so that's the first thing to know. It's one of the last things that happens on the last hour of the last day is this long blow of the shofar. Second thing, and only two. There's this Jewish form of mysticism called Kabbalism. And it's a large and complicated system of beliefs. I'm not going to go into it here, except in the purposes of this story, you need to know that every little minor variation of note that you might get out of the shofar, and believe me, they will produce a multitude of sounds, sometimes those we don't want, has a mystical meaning. And that if you are to blow the shofar in such a way that every variation in note is just the right variation at just the right time, well, then those are the keys, we're told, to unlocking those gates even more broadly, to unlock those gates one last time as they're trying to close. We're going to unlock them and keep them open because we still need to be heard. Okay, so we have the shofar, which is blown, in this case, at the end of the last day of the days of awe. And that if you can blow it exactly right, with every little twist of the note in its right place, then those are the keys to the gates. Keep them open. And so the story begins. There was a great, great mystical master called the Baal Shem Tov. And you've heard me mention his name before. And he was known for many things, but one of them was for his immense knowledge of Kabbalah, the study, the Kabbalism. And he just knew it very precisely and could teach it to you. Now, he also had a great respect for people who didn't know Kabbalah and thought that they had equal access to God. But if you knew it, if you could exercise it, oh, he would love to teach you how to do that. And he had a student, Wolf Kitsis. And Wolf Kitsis had a special dream. And his dream was to blow that shofar just as it was meant to be blown on that last day. And so on one Yom Kippur, when the day was over, he came to the Baal Shem Tov and he said, Holy Master, please teach me. Next Yom Kippur, I want to be able to blow the shofar exactly as it's meant. Baal Shem Tov knew he was capable of it. He said, okay. And so for a year, they studied. Now, the intricacies of this study and this practice are just too huge to mention. And Wolf was there taking notes the whole time because it's complicated. And he accumulated all these notes day after day. He would go home and he would practice and he'd write some more notes. And finally, he had a whole pile of notes. And he knew, because of his practice, because of his diligence, that he would be able to hit every note just right. Well, he mostly knew. He was frankly worried. Yeah, he was worried. He wanted all those notes with him. And, just in case he forgot something or which comes after what, he would have his notes. He could look them up. And so the day of Yom Kippur arrives. Now, the day of Yom Kippur is a fasting day. And when I say fasting, it's fasting from everything. Not just food, but food and water. You don't bathe. You just don't do anything except focus on that day. So what was Wolf doing? He was there reading his notes. He had them in the synagogue with him and his beautiful shofar. Oh, I can't tell you what a wonderful shofar this was. And as the moment arrived that it was time for him to blow the shofar, he came up to where the ark was. Now, the ark is where the scrolls are stored. And there's usually some kind of a table nearby on which they're placed so they can be read. And so Wolf came up with his notes and his shofar, and he spread out the notes on the table. And the Baal Shem Tov, who was leading the service, gave him a nod. And as he started to lift the shofar to his lips, there was a great wind that came through the synagogue, and it blew those notes and it scattered them in 100 directions, irretrievable. And Wolf looks up. He sees his notes. What is he going to do? And the Baal Shem Tov indicates it's time to blow. Master, my notes, they're gone. I blow. And with tears streaming down, he lifted the shofar to his lips and the most pure sound came from his heart out through the shofar and up to heaven. No one had ever heard a sound like that before or since. And when it was all over, Reb Wolf Kitsis went to the Baal Shem Tov and he said, what just happened? And the Baal Shem Tov said, you came to the gates with keys, but sometimes you need an axe. And there is nothing like a broken heart to open the gates of heaven. You know, our hearts have been broken more than once. And if all we do is remember the pain, then our work is incomplete because pain there is. So how do they heal? They don't heal by us forgetting the pain or denying the pain or minimizing the pain. They come from us sharing the pain. And who do we share with? With other broken hearts who are also ready to remember and share the pain. And together, we can heal each other and ourselves. I invite you to return. We do this twice a day. The stories are saved on YouTube. And share them, please. Invite people to come. But even more importantly, open your hearts. Share your hearts. Share your pain and your joy and your triumph and your worries, but share them. Share them with others who are ready to listen and to heal together. And that's the way we'll make it through. See you tomorrow.